It's about time we share some love on this channel. I already took a visit to Outworld and Earthrealm to look at the worst Mortal Kombat fatalities of all time. I looked at some of the fighting games that absolutely need to make a return, and yet not once have I talked about Street Fighter. Today we're gonna fix that by looking at some of the lamest characters Street Fighter has to offer, and when you've got a history and a deep roster of characters like our World Warriors do, you're going to find some geeks, dorks, and chumps throwing soup bones. Here comes a new challenger. His name is Big Nasty, and he is ready for the top 10 worst Street Fighter characters. For some reason, this list was actually one of the harder ones I had to make. I guess people don't really like to talk about Street Fighter's dumb characters, so if you enjoy, please be sure to watch my other videos. I mean, if you're watching this video, you already got nothing better to do with your time right now, so you might as well watch some other videos and subscribe. Like, what are you doing right now? Nothing.
Number 10.
Street Fighter 3 is one of the most popular iconic fighting games as of right now, but it wasn't that well received when it first dropped. Some of must-have World Warriors of Street Fighter 2 were missing, like Zangief, E. Honda, Blanca, Sagat, and instead we got the likes of weirdos like Q, Oro, and Remy. Now, while the popularity of Oro, Q, and even 12 have risen over the time, the stock of Remy has only plummeted, and it doesn't take that hard to guess why. Generic, edgy, emo template number 2, uninteresting look, and he was basically the gameplay replacement for Gaiwa and Nash, making it even worse when you realize two Street Fighter superstars were replaced by this boring edgelord. When a character that is literally just a white humanoid blob is more interesting than you, that's when you know you deserve to be on this list.
Number 9.
For this next selection, I feel real bad putting them on this list. A clone of N. Bison meant to be his spare body is taken under the wing of Balrog. A psychic power-wielding substitute for M. Bison with the money-hungry, prize-fighting, do whatever it takes to get that bag attitude from Balrog? That sounds like it could be a real interesting character, but instead, we got Ed. And Ed is anything but interesting. All he is a knockoff M. Bison, and I'm not just talking him being a clone. Ed even went and formed his own Shadaloo group, which reminds me of when a little 5-year-old tries on his daddy's work boots when he's not home. We've seen the World Warriors fight M. Bison and Shadaloo for how long? And nobody wants to see a repeat with an infinitely worse group. And don't even get me started on that hideous outfit he wears in 5.
Number 8.
Whenever a character trailer releases for a character in a video game, it's a good way to gauge the reception and how the audience feels about that character. Just look at Luke and his lukewarm reception when his trailer first dropped. But nothing can beat that of Decapre's. A Cammy clone with absolutely no personality and an alright look. Essentially one of Bison's boring henchmen with a copy and paste moveset off a much more popular character. Not to mention Capcom first hyping this character's reveal and release like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th coming. It is no surprise that nobody hitched their wagon to this Red Room dropout.
Number 7.
Fat people sure are funny. Fat people. They sure are funny, aren't they? Look at these fat fatties. Look at their chunky nips. Doesn't it just make you laugh? Oh, and they love their food. Doesn't it make you laugh? Doesn't it make you just laugh? Birdie looked kinda cool in Alpha 3, and then when they brought him back in Street Fighter 5, they just decided to make him a joke and gave him a super dad bod belly. If you're gonna bring a character back to just make them a joke for no reason, then I'd prefer you just not bring them back at all. Or at least make the joke funny. Look at Dan! What an absolute Chad. Just because a character is fat doesn't mean they're automatically bad. Look at Bob from Tekken. He's great. Birdie is not.
Number 6.
One of the biggest critiques for Street Fighter is that sometimes it just feels like the roster can blend together a lot with their characters, not really standing out from each other. That's what made Blanca so great and popular. You load up the game and see all these normal people and then see green men with ferocious orange hair. It's cool, and I feel like that's what they tried to do with Hakan. Sun-dyed, skin-burnt red skin, and contender for the worst hair in Street Fighter with that beauty blue. And also just a really weird playstyle with him having to oil himself up in order to throw your opponent around. Yeah, it seems like lightning doesn't really strike twice because Blanca is a good weird, while Hakan is just weird.
Number 5.
Sure, Street Fighter isn't exactly teeming in realism, but at least it isn't completely outrageous with their characters, and it remains somewhat grounded, Blanca and Akuma aside. That being said, what the hell is a Sodom? In a game with green jungle humans, oily red wrestlers, and 20-foot hulking behemoths, Sodom still manages to look out of place. Yes, I know he's from Final Fight, but if I was in Final Fight, would y'all just be alright with me being a fighter in Street Fighter? Look at this guy, dressed in a football costume, a stormtrooper hat, and the Skechers Soldier 7s. You could deadass drop me in the game with my Captain America Halloween costume, and I think I'd be a better fit. Out of all the characters in this list though, I wouldn't mind seeing this guy come back, but there's a reason he's only been in one Street Fighter game as of right now.
Number 4.
Sure, Street Fighter V was a fun game, but Street Fighter 6 looks like it'll be way better. As long as F.A.N.G isn't brought back, we won't have a problem. What were they thinking when they made F.A.N.G? A literal 90s children TV villain just randomly injected into Shadowloo with an absolutely hideous, ugly design and completely unthreatening as a villain. He's like a worse Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Hell, at least Doof is a cool guy, and I think even he would make a better, more respected villain than this jerk-off. What a goof. Like, he's flying like a bird, bro. What kind of... Yo, cut that number 3.
Number 3.
Boy, that Street Fighter, the movie was just horrible, wasn't it? And then they got a Mortal Kombat clone tie-in game. Boy, that Street Fighter, the movie, the game was just horrible, wasn't it? This character was literally just created to keep Kenya Sawada from being sad because he didn't get the role of Ryu in the movie. Hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Sawada. Oh boo! Back of the line, get out of here! Thus, a character stuffed into the game at the last minute, meaning he's got such a boring, uncreative, unoriginal moveset, many of which are borrowed from other characters. The developers didn't even finish his animations. One of his kicks literally glitches the game. So instead of cheering Sawada up, you made him a loser in real life and in the game.
Number 2.
Hey, remember what I was talking about earlier? Fat people are just so funny. Birdie is just a big old tummy. Look at Rufus, he's so fat. Doesn't he just make you laugh? Doesn't he just make you laugh, right? Does he make you laugh? A white, fat, blonde character whose punchline is being a fat loser. As if Street Fighter doesn't have enough white, blonde characters. But the worst part is he came from this concept art. This guy actually looks real cool. But how this went to this, I will never know. Even the other characters in the game were annoyed by his presence, and all he does is yell about his girlfriend and fighting Ken. But he's just so fat. Look at all the blubber, that flubber. Look at his baloney titties. He's like a melted white Hershey's Kiss. He's just a fat... What? Alright, number 1. Before we reveal our last challenger, let's remember the top 10 worst Street Fighter characters. Number 10, Remy. Number 9, Ed. Number 8, Decapre. Number 7, Fatty number 1. Number 6, Hakan. Number 5, Sodom. Number 4, Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Number 3, Sawada. Number 2, Fatty number 2. And...
Number 1.
See, the problem with this number 1 choice is I don't even know how to write a proper segue into revealing the choice. So I guess I'll just tell a story. In the 90s, a game called Street Fighter 2010 dropped, depicting the future of what's to come in 2010. Considering we're now in 2023, I can tell you they nailed it right on the head. Aliens and humans living together, and it's all centered around one man called Kevin Stryker. Oh yes, he's a Street Fighter character, so he counts. In fact, in the West, he's not called Kevin Stryker. He's called Ken. Ken apparently turns into a cyborg cop. Do I really even need to say anything else? You see that gameplay. Cyborg cops fighting aliens is not Street Fighter, and this is not Ken. This is... There was no other choice. He is number 1. He is objectively, without a doubt, the worst Street Fighter character. I've got nothing else to say. Here, let me end it on a joke. Fat people! Ah!